Hey guys, Hastings here, and welcome to highlights from round 3 of the alternate one-make championship. This time out, we'll be racing A-class cars around the Nurbugring GP circuit. As per usual, race 1 will be started from a completely random grid as decided by Forza. So let's get into it. We're following this Dodge down into the first corner, and I must say I do approve of the paint job. Anything black and yellow or yellow and black, and I'm very happy to see it. Gets a pretty good run up the inside, makes a bit of a contact with the car in front of him, but fortunately it's not too ferocious or too sort of like forgotten words already. I'm doing brilliantly. It wasn't too much contact, and everyone gets through pretty well. There's a Mazda in the background, slightly off track. I do enjoy driving that F2000 car, and everybody seems to be going about 3 wide going through the next section of corners, which isn't generally a good idea. You can see a green Ford GT going very wide in the edge of this screen there, and as we come down the straight now, it's a very nice picture. 3 black and yellow cars all fighting for position, with me at the behind a BMW and a Dodge. A little bit of contact behind with a Ford, but again it was only a small amount, so not too much. Nothing really matters. The Dodge unfortunately runs wide and very nearly spins back onto track and takes somebody out. With some very good evasive driving, puts him back into the gravel trap. Slightly further up, I'd managed to get past the Dodge when he ran off, and I was being put under quite a bit of pressure from the Mazda Formula 2000 car that I mentioned a minute ago. Like I say, I do really enjoy driving these cars, but they're not the quickest in a straight line. Something that my McLaren SLR, or Mercedes McLaren SLR, has in abundance. So whereas the Mazda was phenomenally fast around the corners, I was phenomenally fast down the straights, and you can see, probably come around this section, just how close the Mazda closes up, even through these sort of quite wide open corners. He's pretty close to the back of me by the time we come past the Subaru, but as we're now on a nice long straight, even with a kink in it, as we follow the Mazda around now, you can just see the size of the gap that I've managed to pull from the Mazda. Just to show how good the Mazda is around the corners though, under braking for the very tight chicane, you can see the Toyota running wide there, but on exit he's already a lot closer than he was a minute ago. Fortunately for me, there's just one more corner before we have another straight, and I can create a nice large gap to the Mazda behind me. Moving on, following me now to a few corners later on that lap, sorry, and I created enough of a gap to the Mazda to start chasing down the people ahead of me. Be starting out with this Ford GT that we saw go relatively wide earlier, so kudos to him for making up lots of time. I was following quite close behind around the Schumacher S, but unfortunately the Ford GT ran slightly wide and touched the gravel, and which just gave me the opportunity to go past without having to really perfect any sort of overtake. And we're moving slightly back now towards where that Formula 2000 car was, and he's in another battle of his own, running just behind a BMW M3 and an Audi R8. All these 3 cars were running pretty close together throughout quite a lot of this race. And going down along the straight, it seems like the BMW has got the Audi for straight line speed, but the Audi's got the inside line, and you're not really going to go around the outside into the chicane there at all. But as they've sort of been slowing each other up, the Mazda's now really close behind the BMW. Moving back to me though, and I've dispatched of the GT, as you saw a second ago, and I start chasing down the people ahead of me, which involves a battle between an Alfa Romeo and a Ferrari F50. The F50, like the Mazda, was very good through the corners, but as I say that, he runs wide in his braking zone. He tends to be better through the corners and not so fast in a straight line, whereas the Alfa was slightly better in a straight line. Still, no one really seemed to be able to match me for straight line speed, which was very welcoming, as a good straight line speed is a very good attacking and defensive tool. And indeed, as we come around the next few corners, although it's quite a twisty section, the Ferrari can't pull away because he can't get past the Alfa in front of him. And even though this is a relatively short straight here, I can pull right up alongside, even overtake him slightly. But the Ferrari is just so much better through the corners, he can hold it round the outside and get to the inside for the next corner. After said next corner, there's another straight which runs down towards a hairpin, and this is probably my favourite overtaking move but my favourite overtaking position of the entire track. Admittedly, I didn't pull it off quite so well there because the Ferrari is quite so slow, but you run wide around the left-hand kink down towards the hairpin, and you get to the inside on the hairpin, and then on the exit you can just drag away from, in this case, the Ferrari. So I was past the Ferrari and up into 3rd position I was currently in, so I was already on the podium, and I was chasing down an Alfa Romeo now for second, and there was currently a Chevrolet in first. It was I think it was a classic C1, I think it was. I could be wrong. It's the open top thing. You'll have seen it earlier, probably. Although my battle with the Ferrari wasn't completely done, as another few corners, and he managed to get past me. Although as soon as we get to a straight line again, I can fortunately just pull away and create a nice gap. Although, as per usual, as soon as we get into a braking zone, I'm under pressure again, and then we come out of the corner. I think the Ferrari made a little mistake through the chicane, and I could pull away again. Speaking of the Chevrolet that was in first, this is the one. I'm pretty sure it is a C1. I'm not sure if it's a Corvette C1, but it's very old, very open top. Good job it isn't raining. Chevrolet, who had managed to get to the front of the grid and seemed to be just a little bit quicker than everybody else. So I managed to sort of just control the gap back to the Alfa Romeo, who I'd now caught up with and was fighting for second over. I was sort of alongside down the straight, but again we saw with the BMW and the Audi that you're not going to go around the outside there, but I can get a pretty good exit and have a nice run at him into the next corner. Again, not really going to happen there, and where we're squabbling, the Ferrari's right up beside us as well. Fortunately now we can have a drag race, which is only going to end with one winner. My Mercedes SLR, as I said, was phenomenally fast in a straight line, and as the Alfa tried to go to the outside to hold it, he unfortunately ran onto the grass and completely missed his corner. Although I got very out of shape, as did the Ferrari on the exit. I think the Ferrari actually spun there, and I was very close to spinning myself. Maybe we were getting a bit eager when we saw the Alfa run wide, and that put me out of shape into the next few corners and allowed the Alfa to really attack and actually get past through the next section. He's just so much better through the corners than I am. Look, with a bad run, he's just so much faster. He can go past pretty much as he pleases. Although, as we've seen, there's a little bit of a straight there, so I can keep my gap to him nice and small. And there is another couple of corners. And then this is the overtaking spot that I was talking about with the Ferrari. There's a left-hand kink down there, so you just run wide through that bit, get your nose up the inside as you go into the hairpin, and hog the inside line all the way around. It's quite a long hairpin, really. And then as soon as we get to this uphill straight, just put the power down, and with my superior acceleration and speed, you can take position. And as we go into the Schumacher races, all you got to do is hold it together. Although I did run very, very close over the curve there, very close to running wide. But that was it. Basically, I've managed to get the move done. Even though the Ferrari spun earlier at the first corner, one lap later he's still ahead of the Ford GT, who is currently, if I can count quickly, holding fifth. So you've got the Chevy in front, and there's a battle of me and the Alfa in second and third, the Ferrari, the Ford, and then this Mazda F2000 car, who seemed to have sort of dispatched of the Audi and the BMW that he was fighting earlier, and sort of run a race of his own, slightly ahead of them. Speaking of the BMW and the Alfa and Audi, even, it was the Audi that had come ahead of the BMW, who were still relatively close on track, but the Alfa, or the Audi, why do I keep calling it an Alfa? The Audi seemed to just be slightly ahead. Behind the BMW running was a Nissan, I think it was an R33 Skyline, although I could be wrong. And behind him was a Subaru. There we go. Had a little bit of a mind blank now. Not doing too well in this commentary, am I? And behind him was a Toyota. And those two were running pretty close together. I think the Toyota actually had a pretty poor start to the race. We saw him, I think it was on the first lap up at the chicane, had run wide and was sort of waiting to get back on the track. He didn't want to shoot straight back on and cause an accident. So the Toyota was sort of kind of looking to make up for lost time there. And I think my video just randomly jumped. I've got no idea why. We're going up into the Schumacher races. The Toyota's getting really close to the back of the Subaru now, and trying to go too wide through there. And I'm not sure that that's the best idea in the world, but the Toyota manages to pull it off and get ahead of the Subaru going into the next corners. Pretty impressive overtake. Although it seems as though the Subaru was better through the corners and managed to hold it round the outside going onto the long straight with a kink in it. There's a little bit of contact, but both managed to hold it together. And as they go down the straight, it's quite a surprise that an MR2 seemed to be quicker than a Subaru in a straight line, but that seems to be the case. And going up into the chicane, the Toyota's having a little look up the inside, but not quite managing to do anything at this moment in time. However, we've seen that although there's one long straight there, you just got a chicane, one more corner, excuse me, and then you've got another nice long straight. Toyota managed to hold a pretty nice line round the final corner, and even though there's quite a gap up to the Subaru, we can see that there's quite a significant straight line speed difference, so the Toyota can really haul in the Subaru, especially with some slipstream. That's always going to help as well. And he managed to go to the outside line, pull alongside the Subaru. Doesn't quite manage to get the job done though. Third time lucky maybe. Looked at maybe trying to get a cut back in, but he's not anywhere near close enough to go around the outside of this corner. Clips the grass slightly and goes almost onto two wheels, or slightly onto two wheels as he clips the curb. And Subaru manages to create a little bit more of a gap now. He's got a little bit of defensive, a little bit of a gap to defend with. Maybe he can just start to control his pace. But we've also seen overtakes going along here with cars that are superior in a straight line. And the Toyota has a look at going up the inside, but the Subaru defends well and manages to hold his position for another corner or so. And at this point in time, it's kind of looking inevitable that the Toyota will get past at some point. It's just a matter of when, and that wouldn't come very much later. It was very soon after, in fact, as the Subaru unfortunately ran wide. It's quite a disappointing end to a rather entertaining battle. But back up into the lead, and it was still the Corvette who, like I said earlier, was just managing the gap back to second position. And speaking of second position, it was still being held by me, but the Alpha, as you can see, was pretty damn close behind. I think it was probably just the straight line speed that was helping me out and just helping me defend, because lap time wise these two cars were probably pretty much even, and it's just the superior straight line speed is just such an immense defensive weapon, because it means the Alpha's got to go around the outside of me, or because I can hold the inside of corners, he's got to create a good pass around a corner, whereas if I was behind, I can just follow him around the corners and then accelerate on a straight and just blast past. So it was a very entertaining battle, but not one that would see much position changes. And the Ferrari that were sort of battling with us earlier, and an unfortunate spin, would run a race of his own after said mistake. He wasn't quite far enough back to be challenged by the Ford, which we see on screen now, who also had a pretty much a race of his own. You can see the Ferrari just about in the distance on the screen. He's going into the hairpin now, but there wasn't a huge amount of racing to be done. So I think we're coming on to the last lap now, just coming back to ride with me, because I think me and the Alpha were probably the closest two cars on track. Everybody seemed to spread out quite a bit. There was a couple of good battles going on earlier, especially between the likes of me and the Alpha, and there was the BMW, the Audi and the Mazda, and there was a bit of a battle between the Toyota and the Subaru. But at the moment, at the end of the race, there's pretty much not a lot going on. So we just come across the line and finish the race, watching myself hold on to second position, a result that I'm pretty damn pleased with. So here are the final results. As you can see, it was the Chevy that took the victory, with myself also on the podium. Yay! And you don't need me to read these out to you. You can see, you can read them. I don't need to say what they are. The Mazda, like I said, had managed to beat the Audi and the BMW, who'd followed through in a straight line. The Toyota had a disappointing race after that first lap incident, and although I did manage to get back into the points after overtaking the Subaru when he ran off track. And we're going to start race 2 with a bit of sort of behind the scenes footage, sort of driving backwards down the grid. I'm lining everybody up because we're doing a reverse grid from race 1, and I roll over my grid marks, set back into my grid spot, and I'm ready to go. Everybody's in line. We've set a timer. We know what time we're all going to launch at, because in race there's a big timer on the screen, so everyone's going to launch at the same time. And we're just going to sit here and wait for that to do. So we sit here, we'll start revving the engine a little bit, we'll try and, if we can get a little bit of wheel spin, we can warm the tyres up. But there's one thing I've forgotten to do, one very important thing, and that was change into first gear. I reversed backwards into my grid spot after rolling through it, and then I forgot to change into first, so I was an absolute idiot and managed to start in reverse, and you can see the amount of time that I've lost already. Although saying that, with everyone holding each other up in the first corner, I do manage to hold on to the back of the grid pretty quickly. Although saying that, if you want to really see how much time I've lost doing that, you can hopefully see a bright blue dot going around the corner ahead of us. That's the Chevrolet that won race 1 and that we started ahead of. So we could potentially be, what was that, 5 or 6 cars further up? Yeah, speaking of the blue Chevy, here it is, up in about 5th or 6th position after just a few corners. Yeah, so that's where we could be if we'd had a good start. So we're really on a bit of a recovery drive now. Although, fortunately, there are a few little straights early on in the track. so I can make up a position or two fairly easily. The Toyota had another mistake as he ran wide at the hairpin. He's not having the best of days today. And the Chevy, though, has made pretty good progress. He's passed the Ferrari while I was busy talking about the Toyota, and he was having a look at the Dodge, although it didn't go particularly well for him. The Ferrari got back past, and so did the Ford, although he's now looking to brake around the outside. And they're going 4 wide through this corner, so the Chevy's very, very wide, and he's not really going to create any sort of passing opportunities like that. They go down onto a nice long straight line now. I'm not sure how all these guys fare for straight line speed. It looks like the Chevy's going up the inside of the Ford. Doesn't quite manage to hold it up the inside with that bit of a tighter line through there. And the guys up ahead are going 3 wide into the chicane. So the Ford very sensibly backs out. And the Dodge is a little bit aggressive there and pushes the Ferrari onto the grass. Bit of gamesmanship, a bit of body contact. But again, the Ferrari's not lost a huge amount of time, so it's not too bad. He only lost 1 or 2 positions. The Ford was the big winner though, managing to get past everybody. Slightly further back, I was still on a recovery drive, and I was currently behind the Alpha that I'd had a really good battle with in race 1. And now you'll see the extent of my straight line speed. I'm behind the Alpha and the Dodge. And I pull up, as the Alpha's going past the Dodge, I pull to the inside and go past both of them. And then I'm looking to go past the Ferrari as well, who moved across onto my braking line and really put me off as I was about to hit the brakes, which means I completely missed my braking point, threw it into the gravel. Really annoying. I've already had 1 mishap with starting in reverse, and now I've gone and crashed as well. I was actually very fortunate not to hit someone. I was only a few millimetres away of wiping out a BMW. So there are some silver linings, but I was once again at the back of the grid. The Alpha that I just managed to get past was making some good progress though. He managed to make 1 position. He'd managed to get past the Dodge down the straight like I did, although he didn't bin it like I did, and he just managed to get past the BMW when he ran wide as well. Back to the front of the grid now, and it's currently being led by an Audi, and you can see race 1's winner just behind, so one must think how long the lead might last for. The idea of the way that I've worked this race 2 is it's a reverse grid and it's a shorter race, so it's hopefully supposed to mix things up a bit, but with just 3 laps in, and race 1's winner is already back into 2nd position, and he's now going to challenge for the lead. He's got the inside line going onto the kink. Can he hold the speed this time? No, he can't. That's twice now he's tried to go up the inside there and not quite managed it. Not going to close up under braking. I think the Chevy was really slightly faster in a straight line, and he actually makes a mistake into the chicane. I think he might clip the curb there, and not particularly nice curbs on that chicane. He's under quite a bit of pressure from a skyline. We've also got the Ford there, as well as the Ferrari and the Alpha. These guys all seem to be same sort of people from race 1, all racing each other once again. But the Ford, the Ferrari, the Alpha, just behind the Chevy. That rings a bell from race 1, that's for sure. The Chevy does manage to get past the skyline down the straight, and the Ford is looking to follow suit into first corner, but doesn't quite manage it. Although he can just manage to hold it just behind the Nissan, and maybe he can have a look at going past on the next straight. The Alpha was once again battling with the Ferrari, looking to try and go around the outside of him. Not really going to work. We've seen how good the Ferrari is around the corners, but he can have a look up the inside of a straight. The Ferrari is pretty slow in a straight line, so he might be able to pull that one off. Although we've already seen the Ferrari go around the outside of me, around there, and in fact he does it again to the Alpha, as we've just seen. The thing to throw the spanner in the works though is the Nissan just up ahead, as you've got the the Nissan's just up ahead. Sorry, I completely lost trail of thought there when the camera changed. But back to the front, and I think it's another lap later, in the same position, the Chevy's going to look to take the lead off the hands of the Audi. Once again, he's alongside, but doesn't quite manage it. Although this time, he does manage to get a good run out of the corner and manage to get up the inside into the next left-hander and manages to take the position. Although he doesn't get the best of runs, and the Audi's going to have a look at doing a cutback, but doesn't quite manage to do it successfully. The Ferrari and the Ford have managed to get past the Nissan. I'm not quite sure how, because changed cameras, but they have, and now the Audi is under a lot of pressure from the Ford. I think the Nissan may have made a mistake, because even I've got past him now as well, as he was going rather slowly. And I think I'm back now up into 10th place, so yeah, the Nissan must have made a mistake somewhere. after I changed the camera. I'm now up behind the Toyota that seemed to be having a disastrous evening, showing some half-decent pace in many areas with some battles with some people, but just making a few too many mistakes and dropping quite close to the back of the grid. I managed to get a very good run at the last corner and overtaking from a long way back down the straight with my superior straight line speed, and I also went past an Audi that seemed to be having problems. I didn't quite manage to hold it through the first corner, and the Toyota looking at getting a cutback. My acceleration out of the corner, once I did manage to get my line right, is good enough so that I can hold on to the position and move up. I think that's 3 positions now in the space of just a few corners while we've been watching. Jumping back forward, we're going to be looking at the same battle at the front between the Ferrari, the Ford, the Alfa, and now the BMW. The Ferrari squeezed out the Ford and pushed him a little bit wide, which enabled the BMW to go up the inside and take, I think that's 4th position. The Ferrari also runs wide, so the Ford manages to gain up another position, but the Ferrari is going to be coming back up the inside, but not quite got the speed in a straight line. And I think it's the the BMW, sorry, that's up into 3rd position. Once again, we've got the Alfa following the Chevy for 2nd, and this time I'm not quite there to try and take it off his hands. And these guys seem to have dropped back a little bit, but there's still a good battle going on for the 3rd and final podium position between the Ford, the Ferrari, and the BMW. I told you it was the same guys fighting all the time. They sort of draw out gaps a little bit between each other as they come onto the straight, and they start having a drag race, but because they're sort of far enough apart, there's not going to be any position changes, not this time round. Anyway, as you may have seen in the last shot, I was just about catching the back of these guys, just coming in to join in the fun. And you can see the BMW went rather wide onto the grass. I think that's the 2nd time he's done that, and followed very wide through the next corner, enabling me to have a real go at going past him, although he did put me on the outside for the 2nd corner, which enabled the BMW to take it back past me. Once again, come back into my favourite overtaking opportunity, running wider through the left-hand kink, hogging the inside line and taking the position, and then out accelerating them on the way out. So I'm now up into, I think it's 5th position, so I've just got the Ford and the Ferrari ahead of me that I maybe be able to overtake. I think probably the first 2 are out of reach by now, especially that Chevy, who was very fast. A few corners later and we come onto another long straight where I can really unleash the power of the Mercedes. Just got the Ford to try and get past, and he's probably a little bit too far ahead to take a decent run at, but he goes defensive nonetheless, and I can't quite make it past this time. I get a good run through the first corner though, although it does put me on the outside if I do want to have a go and getting past the Ford at this time round, which I'm not going to be able to do. So I just tuck in behind and see if I can hold it through the left-hander, hold it through the right-hander. There's another little straight that I might be able to do something with. Here it is, we come past the right-hander, onto the straight, see if I can do anything about getting past the Ford at this attempt. Can't quite see when the angle, yep, we're going to look up the inside, but not quite close enough to make anything stick. So we're going to go around the next section of corners and down towards, oh look at that, that's my favourite overtaking opportunity again. I wonder if I can do anything here. See if we can accelerate down towards the Ford, run wide through the kink, put it up the inside, and I've promptly outbraked myself. Didn't quite hug the curb as I intended to that time. And the Ford gets a very impressive cutback. Although the cutback did work for the Ford, I managed to get sort of a second cutback and out-accelerate him up the hill and steal the position. And I've just realised that this is actually the final lap. I'd forgotten to mention that. So I've moved up into 4th position on the final lap. So I've only got a matter of corners, sort of a straight and a half, to try and close down the Ferrari. So that's not really going to work, especially when I've got the Ford still trying to get back past. He's not going to give up his place easily, as he's very close to the rack of me. Fortunately though, we do have a nice long straight for me to pull away from. Phew. Did not want to be defending from that Ford for much longer. And I think now we're going to finish off this race as we started it. We're going to ride on board with yours truly. I can see the Ferrari running slightly wide through the final corner, and I know he's relatively slow in a straight line. I'm trying to put the power down, being a bit eager. I got a bit sideways. I'm thinking, no, I've ruined it, and that's not the finish line. Ferrari goes defensive, and I somehow still managed to outdrag the Ferrari over the line and steal third position right at the death. So these are the final finishing positions. Oh, the Chevy and the Alfa came 1-2. That's 2 wins for the Chevy. It's actually the same top 5 for both races, just with the Alfa and myself swapping positions. I don't know how I managed to get that podium. The Toyota did do slightly better in race 2, moving up to 7th. And everyone else in a roughly similar position, apart from the Audi, who unfortunately didn't finish. That was one hell of a finish to race 2. So these are the overall standings in the championship so far. The Chevy with 2 race wins moved ahead of the Pontiac, who had won every race up until now, but unfortunately couldn't attend. I'd moved up into 3rd after a pretty good race. The Ford and the Ferrari were split by the Audi, and the Alfa's also up there. Everyone seemed pretty close between about 3rd and I think it was about 5th or 6th. And you can just see everybody else. It sort of start to spread out a bit. Interesting battle for 13th with 4 cars separated by just 1 point. So if anyone has one decent race, you never know. They might snatch it. But thank you very much for watching. As always, like, subscribe, all that normal stuff. So until the next one, Hastings out. Goodbye.